All right, folks, welcome to today's webinar. Happy Friday, and most importantly, happy Friday the 13th. We have a real special treat for you today. We have, of course, BigBeat along with myself, Ryan, and today we have another pro trader who is also a Benzinga Pro member, veteran trader Sandman, goes by VSandman7591 in the chat, and him and BigBeat today are going to talk about the market. They're going to square off. As BigBeat said, this is the biggest battle since the Thrilla in Manila. So here we go. Definitely drop any questions that you have in the chat. We are going to try to get to them as fast as possible. If I miss it, we'll circle back around at the end and answer absolutely as many as we can. And without further ado, Steve, Sandman, welcome. How are you guys doing today?
Doing okay.
Thanks, Ryan. Wow, I have been looking forward to this for a long time. I think a lot of people think in the chat room that Sandman and I are always going at it, and nothing could be further from the truth. I think, you know, he and I have been veteran traders for a very long time, and but we definitely see the markets in different ways, and we're going to get to that today. But before we do that, Ryan, I think everybody knows about my background, but I would like to ask, Sandman, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into all this?
Yeah, well, by the way, I'm going by Sandman today, but a lot of you probably know who I am. My name is Bernard Vival. It's no secret. I'm public, and I started very, very young as a child. Had an interest gained through my folks, and literally, I mean, 6, 7 years old, and then I was trading before I was able to trade legally. My parents' account in my mid-teens. And then I worked for a bit after college, and after law school, I worked for Standard & Poor's as a ratings officer. And I left in 1987, beginning of the year, to go out on my own, and I've been on my own ever since then. Yeah. And I was an options trader for a good part of just equity options. Plain vanilla stuff, no fancy stuff, no iron condors, no straddles, nothing like that. Just would start with an idea and buy time. A lot of people say don't buy time. I bought time, 6 to 9 months. Would wait for my position to work, and I did that for many, many years, and then only switched over probably, I don't know, maybe in the last 10, 15 years. To trading equities pretty much full, just equities alone. I didn't need to take the risk of options anymore, but it can be extremely lucrative if you do it well. It was for me. I mentioned Standard & Poor's. I left Standard & Poor's on an options trade. It was something that came along, Lear Sigler. And I was at a party and I heard people talking about a deal that they were doing. They only revealed 3 facts. They only revealed that it was a deal for about $2 billion, and that it had publicly traded options, and that it would double in value. And at that time, there weren't that many individual stocks. This is 1986. Not every stock had options like they do now. There's, it was a limited number of shares. So it was pretty easy to kind of use those 3 factors to narrow it down. I narrowed it down. It was to Singer, Tektronix, and Lear Sigler. I bought Singer calls. All the money that I had, I was 29 years old. I put it in Singer calls, and I was that same week. I'm riding to New York on the train. I was commuting at that point down to 25 Broad, and saw that Lear Sigler had very unusual activity. Got in, sold the Singer, bought the Lear Sigler, and I made enough money to on that trade to leave Standard & Poor's and go out on my own, and I did. And the rest is history, as they say.
Oh, well, we always hear all the good stuff. Tell us a bad one. Tell us a bad trade you had.
Oh God, a bad trade.
that many, huh?
No, I mean, I'm just trying to think. I'll tell you. There are a few where I think the worst trade you can make is when you give back a big profit. I'll tell you just about an absolute loss. I was in a small biotech company, and they had a specific date for data. And I always tell this story about the one I'm telling you right now, in terms of with respect to what to do when you're faced with a loss and how to approach it. So anyway, I had a date for that to happen. I had a lot of shares, and they reported early, and the news was not good. So I was faced with that. We didn't have pre-market trading when this happened,
Sure.
and I knew it was going to be a large loss. It ended up being a six-figure loss, low six-figure loss, but I lost a little bit over $100,000 in the trade. But and this is the lesson of this story. I sold on open. If I hadn't sold on open, then I lose twice as much in 15 minutes. So I always like to tell people, when you have that, your best out is often your first out. Yep. And that's the lesson I learned from that. But that was pretty bad. I mean, that was blind. I learned something about, I learned something from that. It was a long time ago, but it's still, right. Do you want to know a bad trade? It was pretty bad.
And that's one of the things is that what do new traders struggle with on a daily basis, right? I mean, we all weren't born with the knowledge of the markets. We all had to learn somewhere, right? You and I learned it at a younger age. We were born pretty much into it, pretty much in a way. But, that loss, as my dad always says, if you make a loss or a mistake, you got to learn from it, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And you're making me think. I mean, my first bad loss, I was 18 years, it was bad at the time.
Here we go.
I was 18 years old, and I shorted IBM puts. And only time I ever shorted put, never did it again. Never shorted puts again. I never did it again. But I'd had a much smaller account at that time, and I was doing well and really full of myself. And I was about to go to college and all, and I was just doing so great. I shorted some puts. I think in about 3 minutes, I lost $25,000. I think they were IBM puts. I'm pretty sure they were. And anyway, I learned a lesson. Never shorted another put in my life. So that was probably in retrospect a cheap lesson, but at the time didn't seem so. So
I mean, my first big bad trade was I lost a big amount of money in the cattle futures. Being from Southern Illinois, Central Illinois as well, that I thought I knew everything about cows, and I didn't know crap about cows. So the truth of the matter is, I always say, always know what you're trading, right? I know exactly how that company makes money or that equity makes money. You're not going to understand it, right?
Or ask Hillary.
There you go. Oh,
that's my cattle futures.
Already, I love it. Yeah. Love it. Okay, so for me, Bernard, I do use stop losses, and a lot of times when I find myself in a very a winning situation, I only take half off. I ease into my trades. I never go full boat. I feel like that a lot of new traders aren't disciplined, right? They take their whole account and try to buy something. And I feel like that markets they love that, right? That's why the Robin Hood's getting there, because you just put all your money into one stock and be happy. And the truth of the matter is we have to be a little more disciplined. And I do use stops. I also use trailing stops. So if a company jumps up on me, I only sell about half, and then I'll put the rest of trailing stops so I don't have to worry about it. Becomes an investment. But tell me a little bit about you. You say you don't quite always use stops.
No, I don't use a mechanical stop, but I do use a mental one. And I'm a true day trader. I'm pretty, with some exceptions, I'm cash by 4 o'clock. So I'm very careful about how far I'll let a position go backwards. And that's almost not at all, because even when I paid a commission, I probably pretty much traded the same way. But now I'm not really penalized for selling something because it's not moving fast enough for me. And then if I change my mind, buying it right back. So what's the downside of me doing that now? Literally nothing. So I don't really let a position go against me. And it's really interesting. You asked me in respect to stops, but I thought about it today. When I'm trading, I always have a chart of this, a moving chart of the SPY, minute chart of the SPY right in front of me. I very seldom, because I'm trading off of derivatives all day, off of derivative action, off of options, and I'm buying the underlying. I shouldn't say never, because there's always an exception, but I don't trade against the market. So if I see that market moving down, I'm not putting, even if I see a great sweep go by, I'm probably not putting it on, or I'll put it on with a quarter of the position or something like that. I don't like to trade against the market. So I'm generally always, I like that at my back, on a given day. And even on a down day, you get that, big down day. I'm waiting for that to level out or actually move up, but I don't trade against the market when I'm trading fast.
Now you say that you're out by 4 o'clock. Now you obviously have other accounts, or you're something you're
I
trading.
do. I have a account at JP Morgan
Yeah.
that I, also has no commission, but it's just kind of separate from what I do. And, that's where I put something that I was going to hold, not going to mess with.
Now
Now, if you
you and
don't-
I are old traders, but Ryan's a fairly newer trader. Been a few years now. Ryan, tell us a little bit about your stops.
Yeah, so I actually do something very, very similar. So I use a mental stop, but on longer term trades, on things that I have a larger time horizon for, I will actually use an actual stop. I will actually put it in, and if it fills, it fills. But that's because I have a predetermined plan, and I have to stick to my plan. So that's one of the things that I'm always telling people is that if you come up with a plan, make sure that you stick with it. And then also when I have a mental stop, I try not to change that. I try to change that as little as possible. And I wanted to jump in there, Bernard. What do you, when you have a mental stop, what kind of trigger points do you use? Like within Pro, I know you said you're a big Squawk user in Pro, and you also use the newsfeed. Does Pro help you manage your stops or monitor your stops, or how does that work?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I'm hearing a piece of news that's going to affect the direction of the market, absolutely. I mean, I'm out. If I hear, and especially nowadays, everything's so headline driven. If I'm in there and I've got a position, I generally only tend to trade one position at a time, and I'm right on that position. My trades don't normally last minutes; they last seconds. It's that quick. So I'm trading that fast, and I know people kind of find that hard to believe. I've had people tell me this week that you can't make money doing that. I promise you, you can. Number one. By the way, just to interject, I see questions going by here. Yes, I am Sandman from Keith's Room. So if some of you, were ever part of that, then you actually saw me trade live. And if you have somebody that wants to, is holding themselves out as giving you stock advice, and doing that, have them trade live in front of you, because you saw me do it. Just say, trade live in front of me. Make them walk the walk.
Okay, Sandman, then I'll throw one out at you. We're going to have a trading summit in New York. I'm inviting you now to the trading summit. You want to go against me there?
There you go. There you go. Yeah, let's put it on. Sure.
I just pre-ordered my ticket, guys. I pre-ordered my ticket. That's awesome.
Anyway, I am Sandman from Keith's Room. So you saw me actually doing that. Actually, now I can see the chat. I don't know what I just did, but now I'm seeing the chat. Good. Okay. Somebody asked that question, and I wanted to, just clear that up. So you actually saw me. They saw me trade.
Very good. Okay, well, Sandman, I know that one of the biggest problems of a new trader, and I know I had it too, and I probably still have it today, is my ego. I have to learn to check my ego at the door. What about you?
I don't have that problem. I learned that long, long ago. I'm an old guy. You're young, so maybe I don't know. But no, because I mean, if it doesn't take much. I mean, no. if you do it a few times and you let that cost you an amount of money, then you kind of learn that lesson very quickly. So I learned that at a pretty early age. It's not one. I have other trading flaws. That's not really kind of one of them.
Okay. Well, what are your other trading flaws?
You're gonna put me on the spot now. What are my trading flaws? I'll tell you what. And I guess this does feed into. You might turn around on me and say that just feed into ego, but your worst losses are gonna come when you're most sure about an idea.
Yes.
And if you're sure about an idea and you say, oh, it's got to work. I can't be. I mean, then you're going to lose some money if you do happen to be wrong. The question is, the trick of that is just recognizing it quickly enough. So there's no sin in being wrong at all. I always like to say I'm wrong at least 10 times a day, and I am, but I don't stick around to let that being wrong hurt me. And that's, I keep my red small. I don't worry about green. I worry about my red. I keep the red small, and the green takes care of itself. I like to say that to people too. Now,
do you set goals for yourself, like say daily, monthly?
Yeah, I generally have something in mind. For me, I tend to do that when I feel like I'm kind of in a rut. So I tell people are having an issue trading whatever, and they can't seem to get on the ball. So I always say, set a very low bar, and a number that you feel you can make easily. And then if you do that, I find invariably when I've told people that, when I've tried to help new traders trade, and I have them set a low bar, and if they have a decent technique, invariably they will start beating that number. It just happens. It's kind of like meeting the ball instead of trying to hit it out of the park. Just kind of meet the ball, and it works. You don't have that pressure on yourself. don't need any extra pressure to put any extra pressure on yourself. There's enough as it is. So doing that kind of helps take that pressure off, especially like I said, if you set a number that you feel comfortable making every day. Very important to be consistent every day. It's more important to me for especially a newer trader to be green every day than to have a huge green day or then be red the next day. That's not where you're going to get you where you want to go. You want to be green every day. It adds up, I promise. It does add up.
All right. Well, one of the things that we need as traders is liquidity. How do you find your liquidity the best way for your trading setup?
What are you referring to?
Well, your volume over average.
Yeah. I always, I kind of put out ideas out every day, and it's a very simple screen. I'm screening. I'm really focusing on volume. I'm a volume trader. Volume. Those are the three most important things you can have when you're identifying something. But anyway, I'm looking for stocks that traded at least 1.5 times the previous day, and that traded a million shares. 1.5 times it's a 60-day average volume. 1.5 times, and then over 1 million shares. And that kind of gives me my bottom limit for what I want as liquidity. It can be, if somebody's a smaller trader, it can be a little bit lower, but I really, really urge newer traders not to buy, not to indulge in illiquid transactions because it will cost you money. There's another weakness. Sometimes you see something and it's not quite liquid, but it has everything else. It looks good. It has a good story or whatever. I've lost money that way. I've lost money by buying something that was liquid because I'm buying size and you can't get out. The idea doesn't work, or for whatever reason, something goes wrong in the market. You've got to have an exit. You have to have an exit. So
every time that I have a trade, I make sure that I have the volume of the day next to average volume. Now, you say you trade 1.5 times the average volume of a 60 days.
Yeah.
So within Screener, you're able to do that. You're able to take a stock and look at the volume of the day and bring over the column of the 60 days. Now, do you do that in Screener?
I use Finviz to do that, and I believe that's their time frame. So they automatically, I'm just pushing, I'm just clicking a 1.5 times previous volume or the average volume for the period, and then I'm using the million shares is for that previous day.
Yeah,
so it's traded at least 1 million shares a day before.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
For me, I have 30, 60, and 90 next to mine because I always want to see if is there a curve going up or curve going down in regards to volume. If I see news coming out, Sandman, I'm always looking to make sure that down the road it pushes even more volume. Right, 30 days is really big, and you're seeing a really big for that day. Okay, it's great, but then if it's 90 days really low, then maybe that news might push it even further down the road. That's how I trade that.
Yeah.
And so real quick here, while you guys are talking about this, I'm going to go ahead and try to add some of these valuables in the Screener so that I can show the meeting participants how you can actually use Screener to find some of these things. So forgive me if I interject and ask for some clarity on some of these columns. I'm going to go ahead and start setting this up while you guys are going back and forth.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I described just gives you a palette of stocks, for the previous day. And then I go through all those charts. I bring up the charts of each one of those things. I usually get about, on Finviz, I use Finviz Pro, but you don't have to. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. It's $300 a year, I think, but it's worth it to me. But anyway, I usually get about, 15 pages of stocks that I just go through, and then I pick charts that look interesting to me, whether they're a bottoming chart, or whether they're a breakout, or whether they're a floating island. Floating island is my favorite formation. That's how I decide what I want to put on a watch list for that day, for the next day. And I know it sounds very, very simple, and it is. It's very simple to screen for and to really kind of find interesting links. It's very powerful. Expanding volume is a very, very powerful tool. It's a simple tool, and it's a powerful tool. I like simple. I like to keep things simple.
Yep. And you also trade by news as well, right? And so
yeah.
Right? And so what do you use on Benzinga Pro to pull up your news?
Well, I have the news up, the scroll news up, but I'm really for me during the day, I've got a lot of input coming in all the time. It's constant bombardment. So I'm really I have the news scroll up, and I usually tend to do that if I want to look for something. But to me, it's much more valuable to have that auditory cue And because I'm listening to that box, I'd pay as much as I pay just for the box itself, just for the.
Hey, we all love Charlie, right?
Yeah. Charlie's great, and I can make my annual subscription fee pretty much on a good piece of information in one day. And a lot of times there are more. I mean, Charlie made me a lot of money last week, particularly on a piece of news on Gilead. It was just great, and it's very fast trading. You have to have I think it helps to have a reservoir of knowledge,
right.
And to be able to recognize what it is you want, if you want to jump on something that quickly. And I'm not that greedy. I generally tend to do some size, and I'm not looking for all that big of a move. I mean, if I do 5,000 shares and it moves 20 cents, I'm not saying, geez, it's going to go 30 or 40. I take, especially if I get that in seconds. Mm-hmm. So, and then maybe I'm conditioned by doing, I'm trading off option sweeps that way, trading off.
So Sandman, I think we have a question coming in.
Yes.
So they're asking about floating island chart. You want to explain what that is to the?
Yeah, if I could show you one, it's I'm trying to think of one. Hold on. God. It's a stock that's had a large move off of either earnings or what did I say? Was it?
It's putting into a bracket, right? So
yeah, I know. I'm having a senior moment. I wanted to be able to I was just making a point the other day that one had resolved. They almost always resolve to the upside. Yes. Somebody help me out here, because a few of you out there in the crowd know what I'm talking about. I just can't think of one offhand. I should have had one prepared.
That's okay. That's okay. I can actually take over here real quick while you're thinking about one of those stocks. I did want to really quickly touch on screener and scanning for volume, because both of you guys actually mentioned that. Excuse me, Steve, you had mentioned you like to look at the average 10-day, 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day. And Bernard, of course, mentioned that he likes to look at expanding volume as a very powerful tool. So what I've done here in the screener, and this was just very quickly as you guys were talking about, I went ahead and loaded up our screener tool. I went ahead and added those columns that you were talking about. I added relative volume. I added average volume 10-day, 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day. Yep. And I obviously have the price, the percent change, and the day volume listed there as the columns. In the filters, I went ahead and I filtered out some of the penny stocks or some of the smaller stocks I weren't really interested in. So I just did over $1. That, of course, is whatever, that can be personalized to whatever you're comfortable doing. And then I also, as per what Sandman was saying, I also am only scanning for things with volume over 1 million shares, just because we want to make sure that liquidity is definitely part of it. You're going to be able to get in and out. Now, Steve, when you were talking about the average 10-day, 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day, when you are using the screener tool, what is it that you're looking for here? Are you looking for a high relative volume number?
Yep, I can tell you in 1 second, Ryan. Look right there, the top right there, it says China Ceramics. If you look at the top one, you'll see 90 days is 390,000 shares, 564 for the 60-day, 1 million for the 30-day, and the 10-day, so 1.849, and the stock is up what? 45%. You can see that there is definitely more volume, more push, and when a little bit of news came in, bam.
So that is exactly what we were talking about when it comes to the expanding volume, and that being a really good indicator. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned that China Ceramics, because if you look down here in this list, just a couple of names, you'll see China Internet Nationwide Financial, and that is the exact same pattern that you were just referencing. Yep. 90 days, you're looking at 144,000, then 183, 247, and then 471. Humongous volume today, and also up 14%. So this is a really good tip. With just a couple of clicks, you're able to filter through thousands and thousands of stocks, and then very easily see opportunities that may be beneficial to you. So this is definitely something that you can use. And again, here there's no wrong answer. As long as you're doing something that you're comfortable with and you're pulling the data that you need in order to make those decisions, this can be tailored any way that you want. Again, I'm just filtering out low price stocks, but if you wanted even higher price stock, you'd be able to do that. Or if you wanted to filter by market cap or sector, you'd be able to do that too. So there's a whole number of variables that you can use to try and find stocks that fit your trading scheme, and Pro has all of that available to you.
And Ryan, they're asking again, what percent change over what time frame? Tom, the thing is here is that you're looking at past numbers, right? 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, and 10 days. And then what Ryan has gone further, and he knows me quite well, that to sort it by percent change. So you're seeing the top winners very easily. And so what I'm looking for is in the 90-day frame to be a low number, and that the 60 and the 30 and the 10 start to go up in volume, right?
Yep, absolutely. And that is exactly what we did here. It was incredibly easy to find. So, and then I also pulled up a details chart here so we can look at charts if we do go ahead and find the floating island example.
Yeah, DKS is a good example. Dick's Sporting Goods, DKS is a good example of a floating island.
All right. Now, did you want me to put a daily chart on here?
Yeah, daily is fine. And this is one that actually did resolve up. This formation works for a reason, because there's usually a very good fundamental reason for that first stick on massive volume, and then it goes sideways for a bit or even pulls back. But then invariably they break to the upside. I'd say about 90% of the time. So it's a very powerful formation. And when
this is a really good reinforcement, because here, looking at the chart, we have the big green candle that you were talking about,
yep.
and that coincides with the enormous green
yep.
volume candle. This is
yep.
exactly what you were talking about. It pulled back a little bit towards the 45 handle and then continued upward, breaking the what looks like the closing high of 46.78, and as you said, resolved higher. So this is a graphical interpretation of exactly what you were talking about.
And more than that, you can actually, that works on a daily chart. I find invariably it happens within a day. When a stock has, say, a stick like that within a minute, you'll see this. Oftentimes the stock will retrace a good part of the stick, 3/4 to almost all the way back down, and then actually take out that high again. Because again, the same principle is involved. In other words, it's usually had that spike for a good reason. It's not as foolproof on a daily basis, but it's great for scalping back up, because a lot of times it will retrace a stick back up. So the same concept works even on a much shorter time frame.
All right, Steve, did you have any other examples or any other criteria you wanted to
Ryan, I think it's time to ring the bell and get the rumble on, right?
I need to ask the first question.
Sure. Okay, go ahead. Here we go, guys.
All right. So last week,
yes.
when you said the high was in, yes. the high was 315.48. There we go. 315.48, right?
Yep.
And then this week, when we took it out, and I said to you, oh, that wasn't the high. I called you on it, and you said, no, this is the high. I mean, you can't do that.
No, it's not. So when I say I'm calling the top here, I don't necessarily mean like I don't want to top tick something. If you know that top ticking means like I don't want to be the bag holder, right? I'm saying that the overall trending world right now, the market is not pushing higher. We just had some supposedly great news from the trade, yep. and the market jumped, but like we all know, they all sold into it, buying the rumor, selling the news. We've had the same news since October the 11th, Bernard, and I don't understand why everybody was so all happy and gangbusters for phase 2. The truth of the matter is we've got a lot of problems in this country and a lot of problems around the world, and I know that there's a lot of, and I call it, just like our past chair, irrational exuberance. We've got some real bad problems going on. Student loan debt, U.S. debt is exploding, and it's on the backs. And I know that we should say don't fight the Fed and all that, and that's true, right? Because the Fed is definitely putting the sugar bowl in front of everybody. But the truth of the matter is our problems are getting bigger and bigger. They're not getting smaller. Yeah, okay, everybody's working. I get that, but not everybody can work at McDonald's, right? We gotta have real strong jobs. And the president here is saying, okay, well, you know what? Everybody's got a job now. And Tim Cook saying, well, I'm now doing more manufacturing in China. Well, that's a problem too, because he said he wanted to have more jobs here in the United States. So which is it, Bernard? Is it easy?
Didn't Tim just open a plant in Texas?
He did, but what were they doing in Texas?
Oh, what do you mean? They're manufacturing jobs. They probably have benefits.
Right, but they're not building, and it's not like a huge manufacturing plant that we need here, right?
That's no. They actually, I think they built a plant in Texas, a new plant.
They built 2 plants, but I'm talking about real strong, high wage jobs that we're looking for. Detroit is coming back now with their cars. You know, but all of this, the United States' biggest export is what? One thing. It's just two things, right? Technology and Hollywood. And we have a big clamp on that, right? And we still didn't get our IP protections from China. There's still a problem there. They're still taking our movies and they're copying them. And they sure as hell can't wait to get our technology.
Yeah, I know, but that's been true for decades, though. Number one, and number two.
But supposedly,
go ahead. I was going to say we've only been trying to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we've only been trying to tackle those issues for the last year. So
it's supposedly that's what this whole bill is about, right? That they were supposed to solve these problems, and now we only got a phase one. So we've gone for 2 years over a silly phase one, and we can't wait to get into phase two. And we don't even know what's in phase one. I mean, nobody can tell me exactly what's in the phase one deal.
That's true. But I would submit to you that everything that you just said, you could put on one side of the ledger. And yeah, I still want to put the Fed on the other side of the ledger. And then I want to put a greater than sign in between the two, you know, because it's, I mean, and I have all, you know, look, the truth of it is all the things that you would say, like right now, we've talked about this whole issue with the repo market, and it's a serious issue. I mean, that's got me looking, and that's got me worried. On the other hand, until the truth of it is, I have all the same worries you do about the debt, the things that aren't being addressed, all the problems that we have. But as long as that Fed is going to just open, I mean, and yesterday they just declared that they're going to do even more before the end of the year because they expect a big crunch.
150 billion.
It's very, and they're buying back. I mean, what did I put in the room today? They've bought back since September. They've bought 80 or 90% of the issuance of T-bills.
Crazy. Right.
It's crazy.
And what people understand is what the repo market is. It's when a big company needs money and they need to be funded for some reason. Maybe they're buying a big purchase and need an overnight lending. Well, in the past, the way it's supposed to work is overnight. But now we've got a three day. Now we got a 6 day. Now we got a 14 day. Well, when's it going to stop?
We don't actually. I think we don't actually know what is causing the root problem. The scary thing is that so far,
bingo.
The Fed is throwing an awful lot of money at it, and the danger would be, I mean, when you would see the market care. Right now, the market doesn't care. The danger, the impact would happen if the Fed, even after all it's done, we started seeing Fed funds going crazy to the upside. If they lose control of this thing, you do not want to be in this market. You want to be short the market if that happens.
Short the market. You know, in 2007, 2008, everybody's like, Steve, where were you? You know, what were you doing? I said, I was sitting on the sideline laughing, right? And the truth of the matter is, yes, some of us sit on the sideline for a little while. We understood it. But the truth of the matter is, it wasn't the housing market that fell, right? It happened afterwards. What happened was the banks froze up. And we're having the same problem. That's why we're having this.
A bank is only, you know, any financial institution is only confidence. If confidence goes, then
that's right.
But to that point, I'll tell you a great story. I don't even remember it. I think it was in 2007 that it all began. The epicenter of this whole thing began at Bear Stearns, and they had a couple of funds go under. They went belly up, and when that happened, I mean, when I worked at S&P, I rated structured financing, so I knew how. I said, "My God, this is a disaster. This is serious. This is going to have a lot of repercussions." And I was so smart about it, and I knew so much about it, and I was so sure about it that I became very defensive about the market. And it cost me, between that time that happened at Bear Stearns and the time that the market finally collapsed, the Dow went up 2,000 points.
Right.
Like 2,000 points higher. It was made its high, you know, well after that happened.
And that's my point, Bernard, is that, yeah, okay, I'm just calling the top, and you're exactly right. This is exactly what I'm trying to say, is that, yes, the market still pushed up higher, but it crashed. It erased those 2,000 points in a day.
I want to be like one of those deer at the watering hole in Africa, you know, where they're kind of sipping the water, and they've got one eye on the water and they've got one eye on the lion. Should the lion appear? So that's what I want to do. I mean, this has been a great environment to make money. Last year and this year, I've had huge years. The last 2 years have been great. The last few years have been, you know, thank you, Mr. Powell.
But at what expense, though? I mean, when the Treasury the Fed has to go after and put money into the markets, it's our Social Security money that's
No,
buying
no,
those
no, no,
people.
look, no, but yeah, we're not at cross purposes on that. I mean, I'm not going to argue with the fact that I don't like it. I think, wait, I'll go better than that. I don't think they did the right things in 2008, 2009. They're lauded as heroes for saving us from a depression. No. We should have taken some pain. We should have let the system clear. We never did. But as long as they're going to be insane about it, I want to make as much money as I can. So if they want to,
and we're still paying for TARP now today.
yeah, well, our kids and our grandkids and every, I mean, that's all true. I mean, I can't stand it. I mean, I think the whole thing is wrongheaded. We're on this great.
I guess the question now is, are you a bear now? Then are you on?
No, I'm agnostic. No, I'm agnostic. I want to make money. I want to make money, and if who knows, maybe the Fed will start buying back equities for all I know, like they do in Japan. Maybe it'll get even crazier than this. But I want to go with it until.
Okay, so if you're going to say the government's going to buy back equities, what are you saying? Are you saying mortgage-backed equities? Are you saying student loan debt?
The Japanese own shares in companies. They go into
yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Are you saying that's what the Fed should do?
No, I'm not what they should do. But if they do it, I want to be in the ones that they're going to be buying.
If the Fed starts buying stocks, I mean, the market's not going to be at 28,000. It's going to be at 128,000.
All I'm saying is that unless I want to give up my career as a trader and want to become a social warrior to save the planet from the Fed, I want to make money at this. So, and everybody that's listening to us right now, they want to make money too.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I actually want to jump in here real quick. Great first round. We're going to get back to it, but we are getting a lot of questions about making money and actually using the platform to do that. So
sure.
Given the context of the conversation that you guys just had, I want to go over a couple of things here that the participants have asked. First of all, Sandman, I know that you said not long ago that your favorite tool perhaps in Pro is in fact the Squawk tool. Yep. So I want to really quickly show that and actually how to use that, because we do have some newer members here that are not as seasoned as the rest of us. So real quick here, sorry to interrupt the flow here, but real quick.
No, very good.
The Squawk tool you'll notice is right over on the left-hand side. And basically what this is this is the audio feed that Sandman is talking about. And the reason that this is such a sought-after feature is because you don't necessarily have to have your eyes fixated on the news feed or on your screen. You can actually keep one ear open and listen to some of that news that's being delivered. They had mentioned Charlie, who's our main squawker. Of course, BigBeat also squawks. So basically what you do in order to enable this is you just hover your mouse right over the icon and click the blue button. And what's going to happen here is that you're going to see that your status changes to connected, waiting for audio. That means that you're actually connected to the server and you're waiting for one of those pieces of news to be read. You have a volume slider that will allow you to change the volume, and then you also have a mute button. This status will change to connected receiving audio when something is being read, and if you get disconnected, the little icon will change to red and should automatically reconnect. So that is just a really quick how-to on how to use the Squawk tool. Let me get back to some of the other questions here. I'm going to bring you guys in as well. Hang on one sec here. So we got a great question here from, it's actually no name here. What news search terms help you make money? So what he's asking for is when you're actually using the news feed, when you're monitoring the news flow intraday, are there any search terms that you use to narrow down your search for what stocks could be moving or what's going on in the market that particular day? BigBeat, I guess we'll start with you here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking as a macro trader, and of course, lately we have been, right? For me, the keyword search is not a keyword. For me, it's going to be the SPY. I use that as a ticker because I know that our news desk, whenever a big macro piece comes through, I know Brent and our wonderful news feed desk, they put SPY as one of their things they label it as. And the reason they do that is so you see all of the SPY stuff, all the big macro stuff. And I'm a SPY trader as well. I trade options on SPY, so it's very important to me when I do filter by that.
So I've gone ahead here and I've actually added that to the newsfeed here, and you can see a lot of these headlines about trade deal, Trump tweets, and all of this stuff, that the press conference from the Chinese earlier. These are all in here using that filter. So great tip, BigBeat. That is definitely a big one. Filtering the news feed by SPY will often give you some of that macro news that you're looking for that may cause a huge jump or a huge move. So Bernard, are there any search terms that you use, or is there anything that you do to kind of filter the news to something that you're more familiar with?
It's not so much news for me as in terms of what it takes me to by looking at volume, short-term volume. So I would be more apt to, if I'm looking for ideas, I want to see where money is flowing. So I'm looking for, you know, I use a minute scanner. I mean, I'm looking for, and I think you can search for volume here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely you can. And that was one of the things that we were doing in the actual screener is we were showing you how to actually do some of those searches and then how to use that volume. And again, the great thing about the actual screener tool is that you can customize that. So if you don't care about a 90-day average, or if you want something else, you can actually add that to the search terms. Now, I did get another, you were mentioning your minute scanner. I did get another question here. I believe it was Irene. Do you guys trade in the pre and post market at all? Do you start trading early on in the morning before that volume comes in? I know you just mentioned volume, so I'm kind of wondering, what are your thoughts on actually starting trades in the pre-market, and do you use any tools to find that?
The answer is easily yes.
Yeah, I do it I don't do it often. I do it rarely. I mean, I have to have, you know, if you're an experienced trader, then, you know, don't listen to what I'm saying, because then you know what you're doing. But if you're a newer trader, be really, really careful before and after the market, because you can lose a lot of money. They even some houses put restrictions on what you can do and how much you have to do a limit order, so you don't do in a market. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to hurt yourself in the aftermarket and the pre-market. So if you're going to do it, be very, very careful. Make sure you have a compelling reason. Make sure if it's something that you end up owning that you don't mind holding it. I mean, it could be brutal. I mean, I can't help but want to just give that warning when I talk about, I have a lot of problems with the way these markets are managed. I think it's very, very possible. And I don't know how it doesn't become more of a matter of scrutiny, but I mean, I can see instances where something is run on no news, and you know, that's probably happening either by one entity or entities combined. And it's a real invitation where you have such thin markets to move stuff and manipulate things. So I'd be very, very cautious when you trade outside of normal. Be cautious when you trade inside normal hours, but really more so even when you're outside of the normal
Steve,
hours.
Before I go to you, I just want to kind of tie that. That was an excellent answer, and that's actually something that I've practiced during my time trading. But I kind of want to tie that into pro real quick, because the first thing that I do, and you guys, and Steve, we'll go to you here, and we'll feel free to comment on what you look for in the morning and how you do that. But I really quickly want to show the users how to actually use the movers tool to examine what's moving in the pre-market, okay? Because that's what the first thing that I do every morning when I sit down is I load up the movers tool. And here I have it on the screen here. You'll notice that there are a couple of filters at the top, and the big one that I want to start with is the pre-market. Much like Sandman, I actually really don't enjoy trading pre-market. As he said, I have to have a very compelling reason for me to open a new position in the pre-market. I often, if I'm going to close a position, I actually want to wait till the volume comes in the regular session anyway. However, there's definitely something that you can do in the pre-market. I'm not a short bias trader, so I often don't even look for things that are going down unless I'm looking for something that's selling off with no news, or with news that I don't really think is going to be going to last. So for the most part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select gainers in the movers tool, and then I'm going to select pre-market in the session. And then for the period, I'm going to select the session, because I want to know what's moving across the entire pre-market. And what you'll see here is you also have a market cap and a price slider and a sector filter. I don't use any of those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do gainers, pre-market, and session, and I want to see everything that's moving in the pre-market session. Now, here you go. Steve, when we were demonstrating the screener not long ago, Steve had called the attention to ticker CCCL China Ceramics, and sure enough, here we go. Movers has found that was moving in the pre-market, in the pre-market before the regular session opened, this would have been exactly something that I watched for the regular session. So although pre-market trading is not part of my trading plan, I can actually get information by using the movers tool in the pre-market. I know SRPT had some news yesterday. That's up considerably today. And then right when the regular session starts, I flip on over to the regular session, and now I can actually monitor what's moving in the regular session. This may be easier for me to actually enter a trade. And this will also help monitor what we were seeing in the pre-market. So here we go. So here is CCCL. All right. You can see here that it's also up in the regular session here. And obviously this is linked to the details tool. So if you click on any of these tickers, you can load them up here in the details tool. And this will help you find out if there's news. So Sandman had also said, sometimes these stocks are moving up with no news, or we really can't figure out what the reason is. The combination of the movers and the details tool can really help you find what's moving and then figure out what the reason for that move is. So I just wanted to get that in there, Sandman. That's a really great point. Steve, when it comes to pre-market trading, are there any rules or tips or anything that you have when you're doing that?
To me, Ryan, there's no such thing as pre-market and post-market or cash market. It's all a market. The only difference is in the markets is how you put the trade in. I really like going at market orders in the cash market, but in the pre-market and the post-market, the difference is you got to put limit orders in. And I'm going to tell you, if you are a pre and post-market trader, then you need to understand how to put a limit order in. And you also got to keep your eye on charts. Now, this is where I tell people charts is very important, because let's say a bad news came out on maybe earnings or whatever in the aftermarket. Several times I have picked up good companies that might have missed. I will look back and look at past earnings. And they've had good earnings, good earnings, good earnings. Okay, they missed one. They're probably not going to miss the next one. So I'm easily able to pick up some stocks that way.
Okay, awesome. That's a really great tip. So guys, keep sending your questions in. Let me just real quickly roll through these. We are getting a lot of questions. So I got a question here from Tom O. Do you alert on options activity? Sandman, I know you had told a story about being an options trader. I know that you often are watching option sweeps. I wanted to really quickly answer that question and demonstrate the actual option sweep signal that we have here, excuse me. So you can see here that on my main page here, I do in fact have a signals tool loaded, and I have several of the different signals checked. Now, the one that you're going to see the most here is the option activity. I watch these a lot. I watch these option sweeps a lot. I want to know when people are buying up tons of contracts, trying to get into position. I want to know how they're doing that. Sandman, I know that I've talked with you before about this, and you've said that one of the things you're always looking for is when someone is going after a huge sweep and has that, quote, crooked number in there, as opposed to just a round lot of contracts. And that kind of tips you off that maybe they're out there trying to grab everything. I got that right?
Correct. Yeah, they're using more than one exchange by definition. And when you see an odd number, you see 5,231 as opposed to 5,000. Well, somebody might buy a 5,000 lot, but they're not going to put in an order to buy 5,231. So what that suggests is that when you see a number like that go off, and you see it repeatedly go off, you see a string of them, is that somebody's just buying, and it's usually automated. It's an algo buying, and sometimes it's buying off of Bloomberg or something like that. But you see a very dramatic movement in the stock when you get a series of sweeps like that, and it can be very profitable in a very, very short period of time.
And sometimes if you see an odd lot like that, it could be based on the amount of money they're putting into as well, around financially, like $1 million or $100,000.
It's possible, and that's why I said I like to see it. I like to see it repeated. And you'll
absolutely.
See 3 or 4
That's
or
a
5
very good point.
Yes, it is.
Very good point.
Yeah.
And BigBeat, before I turn this back over to you, I just want to knock out a couple more of these questions that are kind of related here.
Bring them on.
So Sam N is asking, is there a screener for options? If not, when will it be available? So we do not currently have a screener for options. The screener scans for equities. We've also been asked about adding in a filter to allow you to only screen for optionable equities. That is to say, stocks that have tradable options. So these types of things will or should be available in the future. We don't have any type of set timeline for that right now, but really great question there. So let me keep going here real quick. Is it possible to see pre-market data in the chart? No, not yet, but that is coming. We are expanding our relationship with TradingView, and you are going to have more detailed charts. You should be able to see pre-market data on those charts. Another great question there. Kareem is asking, regular session percent change includes every change from yesterday's close or today's open? Great question, Kareem. Let me really quickly go back over to the movers section. One of the great things about movers is that when you actually have a session and a period selected, you will get a little piece of accompanying text. It may be difficult to see on this broadcast. It's much easier to see when you actually have the platform open on your own machine. I've gone ahead and tried to highlight it here to try and make it easier, but this is effectively telling you what time frame exactly it's looking for. So when I select regular and session, it's saying it's comparing yesterday at 4 p.m., which is the close, to today at 12:49, which is the current time. So to answer your question, the session is the percent change from yesterday's close. All right, so let me go ahead, make sure I didn't miss any more here. What is the best time to scan? So that's actually a question that I would like to pose to both of you and try to get your answers on. BigBeat, we will start with you if that's all right.
Great. You want to define that when to scan a stock or scan for stocks?
Yeah, the question is when is the best time to scan? So I think that this is probably depend on what it is that you're trying to do.
Okay. Yep. So if I'm looking for something intraday, obviously I will do it right then and there. If I have pops in my head, an idea, a thesis, as I always say, trade by thesis, I will do a scan immediately. If I'm looking for a longer term trade, something that I'm looking for a new longer term thesis, I will do it after hours. I will never do it in pre-market because my mind is focused on making money straight up there. But if I'm looking for a longer term, as most of you know, I think that REITs are going to be very hot coming up here in February and March. I'm going to do that scan after the markets are closed, and I can spend time on it.
All right.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. And how about you, Sandman? Do you have a favorite time to scan?
Yeah, I mean, I typically will scan for the next day right after work, sometimes later, depending how much time I have. But anyway, and I don't want to go over the same ground, but I do that kind of a scan where I'm looking for expanding volume from the previous day, because again, it's very simple, but it's very powerful. And then during the day, would really second a lot of what BigBeat said there. I mean, I can't scan during the day, but what I can do is, again, and I already referred to this as well, I'm looking at a minute scanner and I'm kind of getting the pulse of the market from that. And that's what I really want. I mean, I can't make a wave, although I probably could make a wave, but I really don't want to make a wave. I want to ride a wave. So if I can find that, if I can find some flow in the market to take advantage of, that's what I'm looking for during the day. But that's something that's ongoing, and I'm seeing that every second if I want to watch it. And sometimes I do. If I'm not trading off of options, or if that's slow, then I'll go to the minute scan and see if I can pick up ideas that way. That's why I found CMP today. You notice I put that in the room before it became an issue. That came off my minute scanner, and I picked that off way before. Then the news came out later on that they were getting a rate, trying to do something with their rates, and the stock went crazy again. But that was off a minute scanner, seeing that volume come in, and that was again, I sold too soon, but it was a great trade. So stuff like that during the day, because I wasn't finding much in the way of sweeps today. It wasn't happening today. So if that's slow, then I'm relying more on a minute scan to find stuff. So those are really kind of the two different ways. But yeah, I could never scan during work for.
And Ryan, I also have done several scans already, and I have created watch lists. So if you want to show them how to find my watch lists, and they'll see them all there, right? So show them how to quickly add one.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me do that real quick here. I'm also going to take another real quick question here. Before we do the watch list, I have a question. I have a basic question. Is there a way to reorganize the tabs? So the workspace tabs at the top, you can simply drag and drop and change their order. The actual tools within the window, you cannot drag and drop those yet. You actually can reorder them by removing them and then re-adding them in the order that you want. So great question. Thank you for asking that. Let me show you the watch list now. So you can see here that I have a watch list. my own watch list. But as you were saying, BigBeat, you can actually get your watch list. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and add the watch list tool to a blank workspace, and then I'm going to create a new one. Now, which one would you like me to grab off of the help desk? Do you have one in particular?
What? Let's just do the most shorted stocks out there.
All right, perfect. We actually got asked about that earlier. While we don't have short interest data at this time, BigBeat has gone ahead and made a watch list for you of the most shorted stocks so that you can actually just import that right into your platform. And I'm going to demonstrate that now real quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new watch list, call it most shorted, hit create watch list. It's obviously going to be blank. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the help button in the upper right corner of the platform and click on visit help site. That's going to take me right to the Benzinga Pro help site. We add content for this every day. And if you scroll to the bottom, you will see that BigBeat's watch list is its own category. So if you go ahead and click on that, it will take you to the actual watch list. And lo and behold, right here, the watch list is for most shorted. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to click on the thumbnail of the watch list itself. It's going to download that file into a CSV. It's down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the browser. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. It will open up the watch list in whatever spreadsheet program that you have. So on this particular machine, I'm actually using LibreOffice, which is a free version of a spreadsheet program. And I'm just going to go ahead and simply copy all of the tickers out of this watch list. All right, so I'm just going to select them all, hit Control-C, then go back into Pro, and in that watch list I just created, instead of adding all 129 tickers one at a time, I'm just going to paste all of them right into the search bar at the top and hit my Enter key. And the key takeaway here is that when you're entering multiple tickers, especially 100 plus, in this case 129, you want to give it a few seconds when you actually hit enter that second time, because it has to go ahead and populate that watch list. Now, right here, I have the most shorted stocks in the market watch list added. I can now use this as a filter in some of the other tools in Pro. So if I want to see news for only these shorted stocks, because that might change the trading plan or the trading thesis, as BigBeat likes to talk about quite a bit, then you can filter your news feed on this watch list, and the result will be you will only see news items for tickers on this particular list. And of course, you can add and remove from this list as you see fit. So BigBeat, real great tip there. Thanks for reminding me on how to show them that.
Okay, Ryan, I think it's time for round two, me and Sandman. What do you think, Sandman?
I'm ready to go.
All right, here's the question. You asked the question last one. This is my question now. This has been coming from a lot of people. So here we go. If a Democrat is elected president of the United States, all right, a lot of people have been saying the market will crash 20, 30%. Do you agree?
It would depend on the Democrat. You know, if it's Elizabeth Warren, that's one thing. If it's Michael Bloomberg, it's another. But I would make the point. I would entreat you as a trader, and it's not always so easy, and I get it because people have very passionate feelings one way or the other.
Right.
You really, really need to kind of check that with your ego at the door. I mean, if I let what I thought of Obama, be honest, if I let what I thought of Obama, and not on a personal basis, just policies. It doesn't have to be.
Right, sure,
doesn't have to be this blood vendetta. It's talking about policies. But if I let what I thought about policies and during that period affect me, I would have missed out on making a lot of money. So you can't let it affect your view. I mean, I'm reminded on election night of 2016. A Nobel winner, Paul Krugman, was asked. He said, "How long will it take the market?" Because the market was down tremendously in the first instance, and they said, "How long will it take to recover?" And his answer was, "Never. The market will never recover from this." And okay, Paul. So you let your politics get in the way of, you made yourself look kind of foolish. I mean, that's why you just can't do it. So Paul Krugman can't help himself, but you guys as traders, help yourselves, whether it's one way or the other. It's just not on one side. It's on, it goes both ways. So just kind of eliminate that. If it affects the market, fine, you have to be aware of it. And
Carl Icahn said that night. He said, "I'm buying. I'm going out right now, and I'm going to buy as much as I possibly can," and he did.
Yep.
But I would say that it doesn't matter if a Democrat were to get elected. I would say, okay, if the market fell, then I would say, okay, look, there was a reason why. I mean, for me, I always say, what is the thesis behind it? If Trump gets elected, what stocks are going to move up, right? And I've said
Yep.
all along that I think infrastructure stocks. He's pushing for defense. You know, go America, right? And he has done that. I think, even as my political leanings go. But I would say on the flip side of it, if the Democrat does win, then their priorities will be more in focus and less other things. Let's say and I hope Elizabeth Warren does not win, but if she were to win, I would say that environmental stocks would go up, right? So I think that
yeah, except in her case, she's talking about transaction taxes. She's talking about things that would really kind of affect the very core. It's not just a question of, that'd be great if it's somebody's different programs, got no problem with that. She's talking about very fundamental things that would kind of affect how people value markets at all. So that's my problem with that particular case. But I don't think that's going to happen anyway. But
no, I do not.
Otherwise, I agree with you. I could see solar stocks doing well, or green stocks doing well. That's going to happen.
As long as any candidate, I don't care who they are, leave us as traders alone. I'm sick and tired of them saying, okay, let's go after them. Let's tax the hell out of them. Yeah. Why? Yeah. What are we doing different? We are doing what America is doing. We're going out to getting our piece of the pie. What is wrong with that? And some people say, well, look, it's not America. You're not really doing anything. I can say, yes, we're doing a lot of things. We're actually creating the volatility that we need to create to markets, right?
I would not disagree with any of that. I can't.
Are you saying we're agreeing on something?
We're agreeing on that. We sure are. I mean, but I hope. I mean, even Joe Biden's talking about a transaction tax. For me, I'd have to become a different type of trader. If there were a transaction tax that were meaningful, then I'm trading in a different way.
Have you changed your trading style since the zero commissions?
For me, actually, I have to say, I'll say this. No, but it's given me more confidence in terms of, it's basically put money in my pocket. I mean, to that extent, but no, it just makes me more confident not having that.
Do you think that the Robin Hooders and the Weebles of the market, do you think it's changed the dynamics? I know today and the last few weeks they've been talking about it. Robin Hood now is saying fractional shares. Do you think that'll change the market as well?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't really given enough thought. I mean, to me, they're attracting people. A lot of people in many cases wouldn't be trading at all. So maybe that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. Right. If somebody's doing it in the right way, it's great that more people can have access, and I'm all for that. But I hate to see them get sold on something where they really don't have a chance of making money. So I mean, do we even have an SEC anymore? Because I see things we've seen stocks that were worthless run to over 100. And, so far there's been no follow-up on any of the ones that I know. But I shouldn't say that none of them. I mean, they stopped.
I'm a big proponent of the SEC. I love the SEC. I think the problem with the SEC is that they're underfunded. They don't have enough people to weed out the bad people.
They're just not doing anything anymore, it seems. Yeah. So
I disagree. I think the SEC does as best they possibly can with the limited funding that they have. I think that.
But I want to protect. I mean, and people say, "But we don't need protection." Some traders.
Oh, yes, we do.
Some traders do. So that's, maybe you're right. Maybe it's a matter of funding and all, but boy, I've seen some stuff. I always say, I wish I were working at the SEC, but not really.
No, I don't want to work at the SEC.
No. But no, some crazy stuff goes on. And people get hurt. People lose a lot of money.
There have been quite a few people who have gone to jail. We've seen in the past, but the last.
They generally tend to be within industry, though. They generally people that are in the business, that are dealers or whatever, and that's what they seem to have.
I mean, Bernie Madoff is still Bernie Madoff, and he's still there where he's at.
Yeah, that's true enough. It took him a long time to find him, though, didn't it?
It sure did, but money buys a lot of things, right?
Ironically, Steve Cohen's going to end up owning the Mets because of it.
Oh, are you a Mets fan?
No. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a happy one these days.
Spent a lot of time at Yankee Stadium. I love Yankee Stadium, but I'm a Cardinal fan, as everybody knows. Yeah.
I know we're getting close to the time that you said we were going to wrap up, and I don't know if I'm happy to go for however long, but I do want to say one thing. Yeah. I want to say that I'm as Steve and Ryan told you, I'm just a user of the service, a paying user, and I'm not compensated in any way to say what I'm saying or to do what I'm doing. And I just want to let you know that in my experience so far, in just dealing with the people that make Benzinga happen, that they're incredibly dedicated to trying to make the product that you're using as good as it can be on a constant basis. And I want to say that because it really impressed me. You know, all of you. I mean, in the conversation I had with Jason, I guess, who was the CEO of the company and all the way down, everybody seems to have the same ethic in that regard. And that's a really good and refreshing thing to see in somebody that's selling a service, because a lot of the things you might want to try and buy out there aren't that way. They're looking to sell you and move on. And if you don't like it or you got screwed, then that's too bad, because there are a lot of other people they can sell to and just do the same thing. It's not that way here. And that really impresses me. And I just want to say that. So, and I say that again, I mean, the reason I say that I'm kind of a free agent here is because I think it gives me a bit more credibility, because I'm not, you know, I'm just saying it on my own. So, I just wanted you to all know that.
I'm tearing up over here, Sam.
Yeah,
and I thought we were going to go at each other.
Well,
and
we did a little bit. We did a little bit more time to do that.
But see, I want to jump in here because that's actually a really key point. So first of all, I really appreciate the kind words. I can speak for everyone here that we do work as hard as we can to put the best possible product forward. I am going to answer some more of these questions here at the bottom. But one of the things that I wanted to draw your attention to is this is exactly one of the features that Benzinga Pro has. This chat room, if you were a Benzinga Pro subscriber, you would have access to Sandman's commentary and access to BigBeat's commentary amongst everyone else. And even professional traders with 30+ years experience like you two gentlemen, you're able to go back and forth. You're able to be respectful. You're constantly throwing ideas into the chat, which is its own feature at this point. So scanner, movers, Squawk, all of that stuff is great. Chat has been built up into its own feature now. And it's more, and you know, with all due respect to you guys, there's more than just you two in that chat room that are providing for everyone else on a regular basis. So really appreciate that.
Let me add to what you just said then, because actually it's a good point, because you made me think. I'm not there for no reason. In other words, if I'm there and I'm giving that my time, I'm giving that my time because it makes me money. And that is the bottom line.
And,
so
and every
people in that room that make me money every day.
And that's a great point. That is as simple as it gets, because every person that's looking to get a tool like this is trying to make money. And our ethos here is we are trying to provide as many tools as possible in order to allow users to do that. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, there is not necessarily a right or wrong answer. Some people have strategy A, some people have strategy B, and all of the strategies in between can be completely different. Steve and I often disagree on things, but you know what? At the end of the day, we both agree that it's important to make money, and we're here to support one another in doing that. And that's one of the reasons we were so happy to bring you on. I want to bring on more people as part of our ecosystem to talk about their experience, talk about how they use Pro, and talk about their favorite features. And obviously, Scanner and Squawk and Newsfeed are always going to be amongst the top. So I'm really glad we were able to cover those three today. And Steve, so did you have anything else that you wanted to add before I start taking some of these questions? I do want to demonstrate.
No, let's bring the questions on. Bring them on.
Okay, so one of the questions that I just got here from Terry is, can you scan for low float? And the reason that I'm going to bring this up is because we had a nice discussion at the beginning of this where Sandman was talking about liquidity. You guys were going back and forth over volume, and that's really important. But because of what I just said, we're trying to provide tools for everybody. We want to you may want to see more than just stocks that have huge floats and are super liquid. So what I did here was I pulled up very quickly. I used the screener again. All I did was I loaded up the screener and I put in one variable, float, under 5 million. Now the float under 5 million, this was actually a preset, right? So I just went in here and you can see that there are several presets in here, but you can even enter a custom value. So for example, if I want to put 0 to 3M, and I can use M to abbreviate million, now what I have is I have stocks that have floats between 0 and 3 million. I've added the float column in the actual screener results, and now it allows you, once you have all of these results, now you can sort these columns based on whatever it is you're looking for. So in this case, I've sorted it by float. You can see all of these different low float stocks here. So Terry, great question. We get asked that a lot. Yes, you can absolutely do that, and that's what I've demonstrated right here.
Two things, Ryan. There is a video that you and I have done on how to find low float stocks. If we'll give them that link as well as in the watch list, I've created several low float presets already.
So real quickly, because I happen to have that tab open here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the watch list, and I'm just going to start typing that in. Low float. Well, look at that. You have a biotech low float under 10 million watch list ready to go. And yeah, I would be happy to show exactly how to do that. I would be happy to take any of your questions. If you forget how to do that, if you need help, if you need one-on-one, let me know. I would be happy to go over that. Again, Terry, great question. Steve, I will post the link here, but let me first ask you a question so I can post it while you're answering. We had another question here that says, what is your strategy to make money on stocks from institutional buys? Now, I know we've done a video for insider trades, which I will also link in the chat. But while I'm doing that, if you could just kind of go over different aspects of your strategy and then how you use Pro for that, that would be fantastic.
So in the business, as you know, Sandman, we call them the toots, right? The institutional trading. So there's a couple of ways that we do it. And Ryan will probably show you here in a second, but I use the screener to find institutionals that are buying. And I also, my main tool that I use is insiders. I have built out a complete system, a workspace, just to find insider trading, and those are the ones on how to get the big buys and the big sales from the insides. And if you're in the Benzinga Insider Pro room in Facebook, and we'll give you a link to that too as well, I actually post those in there. So if there's a big buy out there by a toot and it's buying with internally, I will actually help you find those too as well. What about you, Sandman? Do you play with toots?
No, you know what? What I will do is if I see a large block go off, a good example is yesterday, Cody had a couple of large ones go off. And I normally just don't buy the trades going off, but if it starts to move up after that, I will jump on. And I actually made money doing that yesterday on Cody because it traded up off of that. And just off the large block trading, and I did that.
I mean, I think that's it. You have to use all the different senses, right? You got to use block trades, institutionals, option sweeps, and then you can start to find a pattern, and it shows you which direction it's going.
Yeah. Direction is important. And if you give up a penny or two just to wait and see, sometimes it's worth that penny or two.
I know lots of traders, they try to tick it right. You know, they try to find the right price, and I always tell people, if you see volume moving, just go at market, unless the market's crazy.
You said it earlier during the day. I only use market orders. I mean,
oh, you only use market orders?
Only use market orders. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't feel scared sometimes doing that?
They get pretty good price improvement at Fidelity. So
yes, they do. Very good. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's a question earlier. What platforms do you actually use to trade?
It's their, what do they call it? Their Active Trader Pro.
Active Trader Pro.
Yeah. It's not the most user friendly. But there are advantages to being at Fidelity. They don't sell their order flow. Miracle.
I use Fidelity, Wells Fargo, E-Trade. So I've got several different things.
Yeah.
The reason I do that is in case that I want to short something. And if one area doesn't have it, and one bank doesn't have it, I can look other around places, right? If IBKR doesn't have the ability to short, great, then I'll go to the next one. I'll keep looking for all of them too as well.
Smart.
And so real quick, let me just jump in here and answer another question that we just got regarding the screener. Brian was asking, is there any way to get more than 100 results? Brian, unfortunately not at this time, but that is coming. We are going to allow you to export the entire results list to CSV so that you can manipulate that data any way that you want. That's definitely in the near-term future, not available at this time. You can still export right now, but it'll only be the top 100 results.
That's a good point, Ryan. But, you know, for me, I like to keep filtering it down until I get it under 100. I can't see more than 100 at one time anyway. And you know me, Ryan, I've got all the screens behind me and all of the. So I still am able to look at more than 100, but I really, when I'm looking at filtering stuff down, I'm the idea of a screener is to screen it below, for me, below 50 shares or stocks. But then when I build a watch list out, I'm building a watch list probably bigger than 50, right? But the chance of it is, for me, I'm trying to keep it down a little bit lower than top 50 stocks.
All right. So let me just go through here and see if I can find some other questions here. So Tom O is asking, are the options you showed available with the basic sub? Tom, that is a great question. The option activity signal that we are talking about is actually an additional $14.99 per month. That's before any discount that you have. So if you were able to use a coupon, that would also apply to the option activity signal, but that is a la carte. So that takes care of that one. A lot of love for Big Beat and Sandman out there.
I will say this much, Ryan. If someone joins today, I'll give it away.
Oh, here you are again. We got Big Beat Claus coming in here giving stuff away. So you heard that. So we'll do it until midnight tonight, Steve. Does that sound about right?
That's it. Yeah.
All right. So if anyone subscribes today, you will get options for free. The option activity scanner will be free if you join today. So any of you guys on trials, if you want to convert, go ahead. You will be able to get that option for free. Did you have any coupon that you wanted to give away, Steve, today? Is that, or am I jumping the gun here?
I think we're jumping the gun a little bit. I want to go back out, but you know what a great day. And I want to ask Sandman one thing. Would you be willing to come back on the webinar again and you and I actually go at it?
I do. Listen, I do this I love what I do. So I'm already working with some of your subs just on the side. I'm going to be talking to a few this weekend. But seriously, if any of you, I know we're like on a limited amount of time today. I'm willing to like answer questions any evening or be helpful any evening, gratis. I don't charge. I've never charged for helping anybody. So if any of you ever want to do that, I'm happy to do it and happy to help. Particularly newer traders, and I always learn as much as, if I impart anything, I always learn as much back. So I do have a good time doing it, and it's really kind of neat when you see somebody's life change because of it.
Yeah,
and it's been very rewarding for me.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Well, that is great. We are 15 minutes over, so hopefully we didn't encroach on anyone's time. Yes, the webinar will be recorded. You will be able to view this at a later time. We have to get that converted and posted. Sandman, thank you so much for joining us. We really look forward to having you back. One of the other things that I want to say here is that obviously we talked about quite a bit. We had a lot of back and forth. There are a lot of participants, a lot of questions. If there was something that wasn't covered or wasn't answered, please reach out to me. I will do my best to get it to you. I will hopefully we either have content already created for you that I can distribute to you. I can also do a one-on-one with you. Steve makes himself available all of the time. As Sandman was just saying, he makes himself available all of the time. So we are more than happy to help. I definitely want to do this in the future. I can't thank both of you enough for doing this. This was a smashing success. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to doing this in the future. So I'm glad that both of you guys seem to be on. You are getting a ton of people saying thank you. So you guys, great job today. Look forward to doing it in the future. Jump into Pro Chat. Come talk to Sandman and BigBeat in Pro Chat. Come join the community. Be part of the community. Really appreciate hearing from everybody. And until next time, traders, or zingers, excuse me, happy trading.
I didn't know it was zingers. Very good. Listen, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Absolutely.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that.
All right. Very good, guys.
All right, guys. And we are almost at end of day on Friday. Congratulations on making it to Friday. We will see you around Pro Chat. Take care and good luck.
Thank you.